The 100th Psalm. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord is God. It is he that made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name, for the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. A number of years ago, I visited St. Stephen for the first time. I was not the pastor here, and I visited with my family to maybe be the pastor here. And a visit like that all comes down to impressions and talking it through and praying about it. So after the services that day, my family and I were riding home in the car, and my boys were younger, and I asked them what their impressions were of St. Stephen. I asked them what they thought. I explained that maybe this would be the place where we go to church. This might be our church home where our faith is built. What do you think? Both of them said, there is this guy who just sang so powerfully. I don't know if they said it like that, but that's basically what they said. There is a guy who was so into it and who sang so loudly, I was able to hear him. That was their first impression of St. Stephen. Any ideas who that guy might have been? Dan Camburn is an irreplaceable personality. He is a native of Pennsylvania. He's a son who recently was able to have his dad move home and have his dad pass away and be there for that. Dan is a husband and a father. Over the course of his life, he's been a manager, and then he's had the courage to go into a second career. He's been a part of all sorts of local productions and theater companies. He's been a part of all sorts of local churches and choirs. Dan is a performer. Dan always wanted it to be an experience and a moment, and he wanted to be at the center of it and to have you feel and know and be moved into something when you experienced him. There's a saying about how all the world is a stage and we are actors, right? There's a saying about this. Well, this is the epitome of who Dan was. Dan knew that all the world was a stage, and he clearly knew that he had a role to play in it. Dan always went to those full of passion and always gave it 100% of what he had every single time. So maybe it becomes easier when a person passes, but all of us can reflect back on Dan and our memories of Dan, and I think singing and acting and performing will all be part of the memory that each of us have. And to me, the reviews of Dan's performance and Dan's time among us, the reviews of Dan's presence are in, and boy, they're astounding. I always enjoyed talking with Dan. He always had a smile. He was always in a happy mood. I'll miss him. I remember Dan is always upbeat and happy. He loved theater and acting and singing. He shared his gift of singing. He filled our sanctuary with spiritual songs. He made our sanctuary a place filled with spiritual songs. And he always sang from the heart. I'll always remember being a little kid and hearing Dan's beautiful voice singing in the front of the church. He was kind, and this is truly a loss. Not a Sunday will go by when I don't think about Dan singing. It was truly one of those voices you heard above all the others. I mean, the reviews are in. It's clear who Dan is and what Dan's passion was. When we did the building project in like 2001 or 2002, we had a life-sized, cut-out cardboard Steve the Builder that was, of course, Dan. Dan was performing Steve the Builder. What fun we had hiding the thing to scare people in bathroom stalls, and throughout the campaign, Steve the Builder would make these live appearances during worship services and meetings and events. I'll also always remember Dan carrying the hymnal to communion, because we all know when it's time to take communion, it isn't time to stop singing. I know this won't surprise anyone, but his passion for music, how he loved to sing, 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 and always his big theatrical voice and presence that carried throughout the sanctuary. How he offered to sing every Sunday, and how we all love this. And we all love how he focused his energy at St. Stephen. Someone else said they enjoyed his singing. God Bless America, done by Dan, is a favorite. Dan's talent for singing is amazing. One of the folks' review of Dan is that he was resilient. When things did not go as he thought they should, he worked passionately right through it, and he always tried to find another way. The reviews are pretty clear. Dan had a great singing voice, and he began to impact people in other areas of the church. This talks about how he got involved in the church's finances and how involved and passionate he was there, because passion isn't a thing that Dan just played in one part of his life. That was part of his act and presence and being in every role that he played. One person just gave the word passionate. I can picture 4 stars in that review, or 5 stars, however many stars you can give. He was gutsy. He completely changed his career when he moved here in the mid-1990s. He pivoted. Dan enjoyed the choir and singing solos, and that was a special moment for him. And he was always so supportive of music, and he volunteered so many hours. Dan was a great advocate for children and youth, participating in Sunday school with his dad and with his granddaughters. He loved participating in the Christmas pageants since I've known him. Incredible singing voice, passionate, outgoing, persistent, faithful family. Dan was a great singer, a sports announcer, an actor. But many people probably don't know that he was also an awesome softball player. He could play any position on the field, and he was fast. I remember him running down fly balls in the outfield, and I remember him flying around the bases. One person wrote that they had the ability to ride with him in the family promise van, and they knew how passionate and boisterous he was. And they found that he had been involved in schools and soccer programs, and that singing isn't the only act or performance that he was involved in, and that he was caring, and he was so passionate about the families when they dropped them off at the day center. I mean, the reviews are in. And what a powerful presence Dan has been to so many of us. He's my boy's first impression of St. Stephen, and he's made a lasting impression on so many of the people of St. Stephen. Over the course of my years of getting to know Dan, my relationship with him wasn't what I always might have hoped for, or didn't always go the direction that I would have wanted. But there's one memory in particular that I will carry with me. I'm going to remember that for years now he's come to see me quietly and private. He stopped by, or he would come to visit. And he would say to me that he wanted to sing. He wanted his opportunity to sing. He was blessed with the opportunity, with the gift to sing. It was a role of a lifetime for him, but that he knew his time was running out. He would say that. He said that he knew that he didn't have a lot of time left and he wanted to be able to do it. I think of Dan's passion, and I think of his drive, and I think too maybe of what he thought inside of his own mind and his own heart. He was very much a perfectionist. He always wanted to see things go really well, and he always practiced so hard for any singing opportunity that he got. And I wonder if he didn't always have this little voice inside of his head that was pressing him, that the Bible says that we're to make a joyful noise to the Lord, and that this is an important role, and that he had such a sort of drive and persistent passion outwardly, but also on himself to do it properly. I wonder if he didn't maybe press himself so hard, maybe too hard. And this is part of the way that I'll think of Dan. A person who had a role to play and believed in making a thing an experience, but also think a little bit about the voice inside of his head that pressed and pushed. Trying to live in faith, trying to live with who Dan was and the impact Dan had and what my relationship with Dan was. Trying to sit and have it all sort of feel like it's being put in perspective by the Spirit for me. And I've been thinking about it, and I think I'm choosing to think about it like this. That Dan was passionate, and Dan was driven, and Dan wanted every performance to be the chart-topping, 5-star receiving best performance a person sat through, and so many of you felt that, and I think you said that to Dan, that you appreciated that, and I think he's around us now and is able to hear these reviews. I don't know how Dan would feel about this, but this is sort of the way I'm framing this. That to me, all of that time that Dan spent and all that voice inside of his head that was pushing him and hoping for that experience to be the greatest one, well, to me, I'm choosing to see all of that as nothing more than the dress rehearsal. And the dress rehearsal has seen Dan's life go from us. And I know from my first impression and my boys and from all of you that becomes a void for all of us. I'm kind of thinking about it like this. A curtain that's come down. A curtain that's come down on a dress rehearsal. And that all of the time that Dan spent and all of the effort that he put in was his practice, and he spent so much time practicing, and I think he had a voice that pressed him and drove him to do things well, and I think he was all about making a mountaintop experience. And he's worked on that, and he worked on it, and it was an actor, and the world was his stage, and that's who he was. But I think the curtain has come down, and I think now Dan knows, and I think Dan's living in a world where that curtain was just the opening act and the dress rehearsal. And I believe now the curtain has come down, and Dan has actually moved to the place that God has always promised him he would go. That Dan has moved into the performance itself. And that Dan now lives and embodies and is Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. And yeah, his presence, his dress rehearsal with us, his being around us is now at a close in some ways. And the reviews are in, and man, what a performance he had. But I think in a lot of ways, where the curtain has come down on the dress rehearsal, the curtain has gone up on Dan's greatest performance. And that Dan is ready for it, and Dan is gifted for it. And that Dan sits now before God and all the angels, and it's no longer the dress rehearsal, it is the full performance. And that mountaintop experience that he was always so driven to try to get to, well, I believe that it's here and that Dan is living in it and that he knows the fullness of the things that he could see and that he wanted us to experience so badly. When I think of Dan, I think of an actor. I think how we all play our own roles in the world around us, and sometimes we do those roles well and sometimes not as well as we should. But I'm reminded that all of our lives are a dress rehearsal, and that Dan pursued that dress rehearsal with such drive and passion and persistence, that this is a lesson to us. In Christ, you and I are given gifts, and may we all know what they are as confidently as Dan did. And I believe that Dan's greatest performance is yet to come. I believe that you and I will still sit in the audience, and it won't be the dress rehearsal, it'll be the full-fledged thing. And I believe that we'll sit before Dan, and that the spotlight will go on, and that we'll hear Dan worshiping God and loving his Lord, and that it'll be more than a mountaintop experience. It'll be even grander than the reviews. It'll be heaven. It'll be eternity. It'll be us gathered with Dan, and so grateful that God's gifts move in our midst. So clear that we all have a role to play in the great drama, the great play, the great song, the great cantata that is God's singing and God's voice. And thankful that we were able to experience all of Dan's dress rehearsing. And thankful too that we'll get to be able to see this performance, and so positive of how grand it's going to be. Dan Camburn, well done, good and faithful singing servant. See you soon. I can't wait for the performance.